Hey guys, Tom here from synthhacker.com, and in this video we're going to be looking at making this future house bass sound with NI Massive completely from scratch. So it's kind of similar to a lot of the bass sounds that producers like Charmin, Oliver Heldens and stuff are making. I'm not trying to replicate it exactly because I don't know what software they use and processing and everything like that. But it is kind of inspired by those kind of artists. And the kind of important thing to mention as well before diving into this is that there's no kind of right way to do this. There's a general guide that you can follow to make these kind of bass sounds, especially making sure that you use phase modulation, which is just the same as FM modulation. That's kind of the key to the sound. But other than that, just feel free to change whatever you feel like changing. So we're gonna initialize the patch here. I'll also just mention before diving into this that that bass sound is one of the bass sounds that's included in my Massive preset pack, which also contains a load of other similar type bass sounds for future house and stuff. It actually contains 50 future house basses in that pack as well, so feel free to go check that out at either synthhacker.com or just click the link in the description below, and there's some audio demos and stuff on there as well. So the first thing we're going to do is just make sure that the sound is monophonic as you would for any bass sound, and then we're just going to dive straight into the oscillator section. So for the kind of low end of the sound, we're just going to use a basic square wave. Sometimes in some of the bass sounds I use sine waves for a more clean low end, but I found using square wave instead it kind of has more interest in harmonics, and sometimes that can sound really great as well. So we're just going to use a basic square wave set to the default pitch on Oscillator 1, and we're going to route that through filter 1. That will depend, the pitch that you select will depend obviously on the octave of the MIDI note that you are actually inputting. I think because the MIDI notes I'm using are the octave above middle C, then I'm using a different pitch to what I would be if I was using middle C. But yes, the main thing to make sure is that Oscillator 1, which is providing the low end of the sound, is 1 octave below Oscillator 2. Which we're going to move up 12 semitones. The wavetable that I used for this specific sound was, where is it? I think it was Drive. Where's Drive? Drive 3, that was it. With wavetable position all the way to the left. The next thing we're going to do, after just making sure it's been routed through filter 1 as well, is dive into the modulation oscillator, and this really is where the key sound starts. So what we're going to use in this modulation oscillator is the phase modulation. This really is the key to the sound. I'll just quickly demonstrate it. So if I move this up to 24 semitones, and I'll just switch off oscillator 1 for now because this isn't being modulated, you'll hear the effect that this has. Hang on 1 second. So really extreme modulation, and obviously at the minute it doesn't sound anything like the sound we want because we haven't set up the filter yet, but you can just hear the dramatic effect that it really has on the sound. It's absolutely awesome. The next thing we're going to do now is go to the noise oscillator, and the noise waveform that I used, or the noise source, sorry, that I used for this sound specifically was this aluminium one, which I really like. And we're just going to set up a separate amplitude envelope for that. We're going to bring the sustain right down, and we're just going to bring the decay down a bit as well, so it's a really short decay. The next thing we're going to do is dive into filter 1. We're going to use a low pass 2-pole filter. And we're going to use envelope 3 to modulate the cutoff. So if we're just going to give it a little bit of release there, and drag and drop it onto the cutoff, bring the resonance down, and you'll hear that this really makes a massive difference. I'm also going to bring down the glide time a bit. So already we're getting like really close to the sound that we want. One thing that I would advise you to do would be to make sure that the noise oscillator is being routed through filter 2 as well as filter 1, or just filter 2, it doesn't really matter. Bring this level up here on filter 2 and then bring the mix amount down, and this just means that even when the cutoff is down, we're still going to hear the noise source being played. So you can hear it at the start of the sound there, and it just really helps add a little bit of polish to the sound and like helps it kind of cut through the mix a little bit more as well. The next thing we're going to do is dive into the effects section, and we're just going to use the dimension expander. What you'll notice is in a lot of these future house tracks, they the bass sounds are kind of like occupying a lot of space, and they sound like they're in like quite a big space. Usually because in the drop, there's not really much more going on apart from the actual bass sound itself and the drums. So using like a dimension expander is a really great way to kind of fill out the emptiness of the mix a little bit, as you'll hear here. And then the last thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of reverb, just a small reverb. What I would personally recommend doing is not using massive reverb, and maybe using one of your own, like external plugins. The reason for this is because there's no, unless you kind of route what like the sub like what you're using for the low end of the sound past the effects, which you can do, and sometimes I do that. What's going to happen is if you use the internal reverb in massive and send the kind of low frequencies through it from the lower octave oscillator, it's going to sound a little bit muddy. So I would recommend using an external reverb and maybe like high passing it, so you're not getting many high frequencies. But just for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to show you what the bass sound sounds like with a bit of reverb as well. And there we have it. That's a really simple to make future house bass. You can really go a lot of really different directions with this. You could use different noise sources, you could play around with some different filters, maybe using a hybrid of two different filters. Definitely play around with some different wavetables. I'd highly recommend doing that. That's one of the most kind of extreme ways you can get different sounds. And yeah, that's the sound. So thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I will probably be doing more tutorials in the future on more future house basses, like different variations and stuff like that. So if you guys want to stay up to date with that, please subscribe. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out synthhacker.com, which is my website where I sell preset packs for different synths, including a preset pack for Massive, which contains over 500 presets in that, 50 of which are future house bass presets. So you guys might find that you get a lot of use out of that. So definitely go ahead and check that out, and thanks in advance if you decide to purchase that. It really helps support me and the channel and helps it grow. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.